Okay, so I decided to rewatch Mewtwo Strikes Back after 18 years. Alright, so today I want to revisit one of my favorite movies growing up, and that is Pokémon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, released in July 1998 in Japan and 1999-2000 in North America and Europe. It was the first theatrical release in the Pokémon franchise, produced by OLM and dubbed by 4Kids Entertainment. Yes, 4Kids. Anyways, it's been over 18 years since I saw the film, and back then I was a huge fan of the anime and the films, spanning over from the first adventure and all the way to the beginnings of Best Wishes. Why Best Wishes, you might ask? Well, during that time I started to lose interest in the show, and a lot of it had to do with lack of progression, which also tainted my interest for the films, so I mainly focused on the games instead. But we're starting to see a resurgence as more people are into Pokemon now compared to like Generation 5, and a lot of it has to do with accessibility of the franchise and the fact that we're moving into a new generation. In other words, there is a new life and hype that we've not had for a long time, and the same thing can be said about the two latest films, which rekindled my interest for the films again. So I went back into the nostalgia lane to rewatch Mewtwo Strikes Back to see whether if the movie still holds up or if it's just another byproduct of the 90s nostalgia. But before we continue on, I just want to say that I am no expert critic when it comes to animated films or films in general. This is just me sharing my thoughts and opinions after rewatching this film. This video is also based on the DVD release of the movie, and I also included the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin from Mewtwo Returns. Oh, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it yet, because I will be spoiling the living crap out of it. Okay, so that out of the way, I gotta start with the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin, because I haven't seen it before, and I gotta say that it caught me off guard. For those that haven't seen it starts off with Dr. Fuji and his expedition group searching for the DNA of the legendary Pokemon Mew in order to create a clone for Giovanni, that is Mewtwo. They manage to dig up a Mew fossil, and with it they create a little baby Mewtwo. But what Giovanni doesn't know is Dr. Fuji's true motives, as he plans on using the research data of the Mewtwo project in order to resurrect, or in better terms, clone his daughter Amber, which he somehow managed to get her consciousness into a tank. Through psychic communication, the young Mewtwo and Amber becomes close friends, but unfortunately there is a complication causing Amber to fade away, which leaves the young Mewtwo all alone, questioning his own existence as they put him to sleep. Time skip forward and we get to see an adult Mewtwo awaken from his slumber, wreaking havoc and killing everybody in the vicinity. Seeing a young Mewtwo going through hardships and losing his friends was really sad, and I'm surprised that it didn't make it into the final cut, because it gave me a better understanding of Mewtwo's character. Don't get me wrong though, we saw glimpses of the origin in the theatrical version, but not to this extent, as it explains why Mewtwo wasn't happy with his creator. I mean, he literally killed everyone in the lab, which is a big no-no in the Pokemon world, and having this dark tone emanating throughout the origin story and also in the film itself was kinda refreshing, and the reason I say that is because we're so used to the happy-go-lucky types of narratives. I'm not saying that this film is very serious and deserves an award, but I had moments where I genuinely thought, oh shit, this is kinda serious for being a Pokemon film, especially when it brought up subjects about identity and relationship between humans and Pokemon. Anyways, after dedicating 10 minutes to Mewtwo's origin story, we finally get to see Ash and his friends as they're waiting for Brock to cook their food. A Team Aqua member who clearly missed Team Aqua's dress code shows up and challenges Ash to a Pokemon battle. We get to listen to a remixed version of our favorite theme song as we get to see Ash defying all Pokemon rules by defeating a Golem with a Thunderbolt. In all honesty though, I remember seeing this battle when I was young, thinking that it was the coolest thing I ever seen. The intensity of the battle, the catchy music, I mean, as a kid, how can you not like it? So after defeating the trainer, Ash and his friends get an invitation to the new island by the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. They accept the invitation, but unfortunately there is a deadly storm interfering with their travel. But that doesn't stop the brave trainers from using their Pokemon to overcome the storm as they reach the new island. One thing I gotta add though is how the harbor manager mentions the prophecy about winds of water and how the tears of Pokemon can restore life.
The ancient writings tell of the storm wiping out all but a few Pokemon. In their sorrow, the water of their tears somehow restored the lives lost in the storm.
I must have forgotten about this because I always thought that the revival scene at the end was so random. Well, that explains it at least, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. So once they're inside the palace, they're greeted by a maiden as she escorts them to the dining room. We also get to see 3 other trainers bragging about their Pokemon and how they made it through the storm.
What took you guys so long?
How'd you get here?
I decided to fly over. It was easy. Hurricane winds are a breeze for Pidgeotto here. Hurricane winds are a breeze for Pidgeotto here.
But it doesn't take long before they introduce Mewtwo as we get to see a powerful entrance, and oh boy was that an entrance. We also get to see one of the most satisfying moments in the film as well.
We'll show you! Let's go, Gyarados! Gyarados!
Anyways, Mewtwo tells the trainers that humans are weak and that Pokémons who associate with them are slaves, and suggests a battle to see who's the strongest, as Mewtwo unveils his team of clone Pokémons. But the battle didn't last long, as Ash and the others are no match against Mewtwo's clones. Mewtwo then decides to summon its own clone balls to capture the trainer's Pokémon in order to use their DNA for cloning. And it's also here we understand Mewtwo's goal, to keep the clones safe in the island as Mewtwo plans to destroy the world. Long story short, Ash manages to destroy the cloning machine and frees the Pokémon from captivity as he heads out to confront Mewtwo. Not only that, but the legendary Mew shows up to help Ash and his friends. A fierce battle ignites between Mew and Mewtwo while the other Pokémon are fighting each other. Ash, angered by the continuous fighting, decides to run between Mew and Mewtwo to stop their fight, only to be caught in between their attacks. And I think we all know what happens next, the famous death scene, or whatever you like to call it, followed by the revival scene where everybody's tears are gathered to restore Ash. Mewtwo then realizes that he was in the wrong, stating that the circumstances of one's birth is irrelevant and that what you do with your life determines who you are. And then we have one of the most stupidest moments in the entire film as Mewtwo decides to erase everybody's memory. So you're saying that the event never happened? Technically, no, but yeah, they don't remember a thing, as if it never happened. That's pretty much the film summarized. Okay, so that out of the way, the problem I have with the film is their message about morals and how we need to stop fighting. I mean, why go with that narrative? I mean, the first thing that pops up in my mind whenever I think about Pokemon is battling. It would have been interesting if they dove deeper and questioned the relationship between humans and Pokemon. It bothers me a lot that they threw away an interesting concept, especially when they had mature subjects. And then we have Mewtwo, the villain of the movie. So what is there to say about Mewtwo? Well, some might say that he's a generic villain, others might think he's an awesome villain. I personally think he's a little bit of both. First and foremost, Mewtwo has an interesting backstory, but falls flat with his generic motivation for world domination. On the other hand, we do at least have a villain, which is something we rarely get to see in the animated show. I mean, name a villain from the show. Giovanni? We hardly get to see that guy. Gary? He's just a prick. Jesse and James? Annoying. So having a villain like Mewtwo was kinda refreshing in a way. So was the movie as good as I remembered? Well, I somehow enjoyed it despite all the negatives, and I don't know why. I mean, the premise of the movie sounds bad on paper, but I still had a good time watching it. Maybe it's just the kid in me who loves Pokemon. Seeing Ash and his old friends on an adventure to basically save the world, which is something we rarely get to see, to witness 2 legendary Pokemon for the first time, not counting Ho-Oh, and plenty other moments. Moments like this one. But all in all, if you're like me and haven't seen it in a while, then maybe it's a good time to hit the nostalgia lane, just so you can see how different it was back then. But if you're not into Pokemon but like anime, then I would suggest you to stay far away from it and watch other 90s anime movies instead, because I can't see the movie stand on its 2 feet without you knowing or having an interest for Pokemon. So the answer to whether it still holds up depends on whether you're into Pokemon or not, and to me it does hold up, mainly because it's so much better than the animated show. But that's my personal take on it. Anyways, that is what I have for today. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll hopefully see you guys next time.